my gosh. Hey, Crazy Dre Podcast. That's amazing. The Crazy Dre Podcast.
Welcome to the Crazy Dre Podcast Show, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's my man, aka Crazy Croc, aka Andre's Podcast. Brought to you by RSS.com, the distributor that I go with to send my podcast to other platforms like Apple and Spotify and Castbox and anywhere that you can find your podcast. That's where I'm going to be. Today, folks, it's a beautiful day. I have my good friend again, Ron,
Hey,
wheelchair man, wheelchair genius, wheelchair everything, maybe wheelchair. The kid does a little bit of everything. He does working around the house. He does his own, fixes his own lawnmower. Ron, the man.
Oh, thanks, Dre. Appreciate it.
So what?
Nice
Ron,
day too.
It's a beautiful day.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Beautiful. Sunday, all day long. But you know what, folks? Today, I think we're just going to talk about my new record player.
Oh,
maybe a couple of
right,
restaurants that we went to, and then we'll play a game that I found good questions for a podcast that we both can answer. So we'll get into that a little bit.
All right.
So, first of all, how amazed are you that it's not amazing. What it is that Ron kept talking about record players. His neighbor was fighting cancer, calling him Mr.
We can call him Mr. X.
Mr. X, because I don't know if he wants his name out there.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah.
So
you got a point there.
Yeah. So Mr. X is a guy who's fighting cancer. You know, he's got a sense of humor of the 1950s, 60s guy. Just basically says and feels and whatever he wants to talk about, which is how everything used to be like. You can joke around, can tell you know, maybe not a great ethical joke, but you know, it's not out of cruelty, but it's out of a respect for other cultures and knowing that other people exist.
Right.
So he makes fun of himself in ways that you and I would make fun of ourselves for being disabled.
Yeah, just basically joking around, pretty much.
And the sad thing about it is like he lives alone, but he's got cars and he's got record players,
stuff and albums, and he's got so much stuff. Dre, I mean, you couldn't. The list would be as tall as me, even longer. You could probably throw it across the football field. It's that long. He has a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You name it. It's everything. He's not a hoarder. Basically, he got his mom's furniture from her apartment. That's in his living room now, which he doesn't spend any time in.
No.
He's got a couple of different cars and stuff. So basically, we're just trying to, I guess he's trying to figure out who it's going to go to when he does leave this planet. I don't know. He doesn't know yet either, I don't think. Not that I'm in any hurry to get it done. It seems kind of a shame where it's not organized to where he'd want it to go. And the fact that his sister-in-law is the only surviving member of the family, pretty much. It isn't dead. He has a brother, but his brother is, God knows where he is.
Wow.
So he's dealing with all that kind of stuff too. So it's kind of sad, but I don't know why he doesn't get organized and think about what he wants to do with his stuff. I mean, you can't take it with you. But
no, you can't.
You can't. But I'm just saying, it just seems that he doesn't. I don't know. I don't have cancer, so I couldn't really tell you how I'd feel. I'd feel terrible, of course, but you don't know unless you're exactly that person. You do have it, then you'll know for sure. No. You can't say I can imagine. You can say imagine all day, but you're not going to have it. See, and a lot of people say, yeah, I understand. They're just being nice, but basically, you and I, we're both disabled, but we have different things that we're disabled. So we don't know what it's like. I would have a hell of a time having just one arm. Yeah. I think I would go nuts. But you make it work. I've seen you do a lot of neat stuff where you lift stuff, you're pretty strong. There's a lot of stuff that you can do, and there's a lot of stuff I can do, but there's a lot of stuff we can't. But when you try to imagine somebody in that situation, it's hard to because you're not really them. You have to be that in that body and in that experience that yourself to know exactly what it is. So that's impossible. We'll never know that.
No.
You can assume and you can try to imagine and get as close as you can, but you're not going to quite get there. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You won't.
Yeah.
And that's what confused me about, when people talk about like that. They're like,
Well, here, I mean, I think a lot of the things that you're talking about Mike, is that when you have cancer, and you go to a point where the doctor gives you 2.5 years left because it's coming out terminal. When you start to do the will list, you're then constantly thinking about, this is going to be my last week, my last month, last 6 months, last year. And then it becomes kind of like, I would imagine it would be really stressful to think about that. And your mood swings would be much more damaging than good, because then you're always subconsciously thinking about it.
Right.
Instead of, I get it. I'm in my 40s. I'm not that old yet.
No, you're
But
still.
I think that I should probably in the next 5 years maybe make a will. Even though I don't have much.
No.
But still, that way, when that happens, where God bless my soul, or man in the sky, that if I get into an accident or come down with an illness, I'm not like being harassed by somebody talking about dying. So I think that's one of those things that you have to considerate, the idea of why why X isn't doing what he's doing, because then he's always has to organize himself, and then he's got a lot of stuff in his house. So could you imagine going through every little spot and writing things down and writing a list down? I mean, it'd be like endless of work, and
There's a lot of stuff. Lots of stuff.
And it's not like stuff from like 5 years ago. It's stuff since he was
entire life.
his own entire life.
Well, I'll give you an example. You could go into his living room and all his knickknacks and his collectibles or whatever it was, you could point to that, and there was a story behind each and every one of those. So if you asked him about everything in the room, it would take you days to find out what everything's all about, because he has to explain it in detail. And he remembers exactly when he got it, where he got it, and how he got it, and all that. And that's I think I think he keeps those around to keep those memories going. He can't really leave stuff alone. You know what I'm saying? Or it's given to him, or he bought it, or something. It has his soul in it, I guess it were. And yeah, I could see that too, having to list all that stuff. That's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But his sister-in-law can't help him because she's going senile.
Yeah,
it's
she's
really
got
sad.
dementia,
It's pre-dementia, not real bad yet. I mean, she has temporary memory loss, but it's getting worse.
But it's still pretty bad.
But if she knows where she's going, she goes that way all the time. She usually can find her way back home, but there's times where that's sad
it's
too.
pretty
So,
bad.
yeah, I mean, there's nobody. So I guess I'm it, unless he's got some cousin or in-laws or somebody that he knows that I've never met before.
No, that's probably only you.
Yeah, probably just me. I mean,
But I mean, you and your wife. But I mean, I feel like I've been going to the doctor for the last 5 years because for some reason I'm in my head like, I better start doing this crap, and I had to take that poop in the box.
oh yeah, I remember doing that. Yeah,
So
you had to do that.
Yeah.
But you're okay now. Everything's
Well, I mean,
good?
it was not like a fear factor thing. It wasn't like the doctor said.
No. I mean, just to check your age. Let's check now to make sure. Well, that's good though. You want a doctor like that.
Well, the doctor said 45 is the new time to do it.
Oh, is it? Oh, really?
It's not
Oh,
50
okay.
anymore.
It's gotten lower. Wow.
So when I was
didn't know
45, a couple years ago,
that. Okay.
it was time to do it. And I'm like, do I really need to do this? I mean, I don't have any stool problems, anything. I don't see anything red unless I eat a lot of red stuff.
Yeah, but you're not seeing any blood. That's
No,
a warning flag. If you start seeing blood when you're doing your thing, then that's scary.
Well,
That's,
sometimes it's based on hernias or
sure.
like times when you eat red food.
Luckily, I'm pretty good because as far as my proctologist, well, not my, I don't have a proctologist, but anyway, the doctor basically said that, you know, this will probably be your last lower, or what do they call it? You know, anyway, he said this should be your last colonoscopy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool, good. Because he says, you're in enough shape now. I'm sure if we gave you another one, it'd probably come to the same result. So I think you're good from now on. You don't have to worry about getting any more.
No,
I'm in
of
good enough
course.
shape. And I'm thinking, thank God, because nobody likes that. Nobody likes that. I mean, it's not painful or anything. It's just awkward and kind of invasive. And, you know, it's not fun. It's not. But he
Well,
told me
I'll
that, and I'm
tell you-
like, thank God, I'm lucky. So, yeah.
Well, I think one thing that you have to realize is this. If you go to a doctor, I don't know how we got into this serious talk, but if you go to a doctor right away, once a year, I don't really think it matters when you start. If you start in your 20s or your 30s or 40s or your 50s, well,
Right.
hopefully you better be for the 50s, but cancer can be killed and dropped out of your body if they catch it on time.
Yes, the earlier the better, right?
So
Some
honestly,
preventative,
it's probably, I mean, the only reason why I started going to the doctor is because I'm kind of a fitness fanatic. So I'm like, oh, I'm about to just get my stuff going and see if there's anything that's issue, because I like to work out and all that. So that's kind of the reason why I kind of got into it. And then I started going to the doctor, and the doctor's like, oh, you're fine. A little bit, last year, higher blood pressure. A couple times I've gone to therapy. In the last 2 or 3 months, my blood pressure is lower than usual.
Okay.
Lower like a 109.
Okay.
Just low.
Okay.
But that could be probably because, not just the meds, but because I'm not going through stuff when my dad was passing away.
Oh, okay, right.
So I think that's the time when I went to the doctor. At the same time, within the 2 months, my dad was passing away.
Okay.
So the doctor, or the PD, or she basically, oh, your blood pressure's high. And I was shocked. Because I think I subconsciously think about the stuff. But going from that, let's just stop from the serious stuff.
Okay.
And let's go right to the record player that I got.
Oh,
And
yeah, go ahead.
I tell you what.
Explain it where you got that.
I tell you what. So Ron got me into records. My person X, probably didn't mention his name already.
Yeah.
So person X, we're gonna go back to X because I don't know if he wants to be known out there.
Right. Okay. The other
So
X.
person X was into records and he has a bunch of records. And then I'm like, you know, I always thought about having a record player, but I'm like, I don't want another something to collect, because I, you know, as much as I like it and it's not around, and I still have my listen to MP3 player and all this stuff. But the thing is, like, it's kind of cool to have, kind of cool to show off.
Yeah, it is.
Kind of cool to have people look at it and see it, and then you invite people over, you know, that play cards or whatever, and then you watch the Red Wings or something.
Yeah.
And then you can put a record player on and do that. But that, I mean, just the genre of having that back again, it's so weird to bring that back, because my parents had a record player. They never played it because we were teenagers or we were younger kids. And there was never a time when my parents, to listen to music and then have us run around making a bunch of noise. Like a record player, having a record player is not having like an MP3 player.
Right.
Like having a record player is like you sit around
Totally
with the
different.
record player and you chat and it's not that loud, and then you're just listening to the record as you talk to someone and make conversation.
Yeah.
So what I had to do, I have a receiver that's a CD tape, but no record audio to a connection. So I had to get a preamp. A preamp would connect the record player to the receiver. That costs $30.
Right.
The record player itself cost me $79.
Okay.
Because the turn strike that Jerry gave me, which is a real nice one, but someone had to take the insides of it and kind of tore it apart.
Yeah.
which is kind of both BS.
Yeah, I know. You didn't know, but
But the thing is, like, he didn't know either. But I
No, he
think
didn't.
what it is like it was so dirty.
yeah, I'm sure it was in the barn. I'm sure you stored it in his barn. It gets really dusty there.
It
if you
was
don't cover
dusty.
it up.
I mean,
Yeah.
you would
Oh,
have
yeah.
to clean that thing out.
Oh, that's
and
disgusting.
I'm almost thinking about going back there and say, yeah, could you just fix it and I'll pay you how much it is, and then I'll just trade this one back to you
Oh, you could do that too.
because it's a real nice one. But he doesn't think the guy at that corner record shop is where I bought that.
Yeah,
So
okay.
go there if you need your record stuff fixed, not your
Okay.
record, but your record player, anything like that.
Yeah,
Get it fixed.
okay.
Guy's
Right.
really good at his job.
Oh, good.
Reasonable price. I do think that records there are a lot more expensive, but
They are.
I tell you what, the Guns N' Roses, and I'll go back to Guns N' Roses in a second in this conversation. But the Guns N' Roses record that I bought is one of the original LPs.
Okay, that's cool.
So it's $40. The other one, which was mastered, was like $32.
Holy smokes! Yeah.
So, but it's one of the that Aptitude to Destruction album is the greatest debut album of all time.
Okay.
So that's why I bought that. Besides, I'm a Guns N' Roses fan, and I'm not afraid of saying that.
I like records because one, you can read the liner notes if it has any. You can look at the album. You can study the album. You can kind of listen to it as you're studying it. Some of them, some of the liners have words on them. Some don't. I enjoy an album that comes with words on it so you can sing along with it and learn the music.
Yeah.
That's the best way to do it. If you buy an album and it has the lyrics on it, and a lot of CDs do now also too. But that's the best thing because I always will do that. And if you read through that one time while you're playing the song, you get to memorize it and then you get to learn the words. That's the best way to do it.
Exactly.
We used to do that when I was a kid on my record player. We do just like you did. We'd take your tone arm, we'd put it on a song, and we'd listen to it, or we'd write it down. And then what we would do is we'd take the tone arm, we'd pop it up and pause a minute, write it down, and let it down, listen again, and then pause it again. So we'd listen to the album slowly through and write down all the words, and then we'd sing the album again. And by that time, we'd know the album. But I remember that, cueing it and putting the record on and make sure it wasn't scratched. And it's fun. It's a lot of people, it's a lot of work in a CD and all that. Yeah, but it's so neat, the sound of it, the sound that the record makes, that crackly, kind of fuzzy sound. You can't get rid of it. I love that. That's what I grew up when I was a kid. That's what we listened to, albums. We never had CDs. We did.
Well,
Yeah,
I tell you this.
no cassettes, no CDs, just albums.
When I was a little kid, the record was just exiting from the mainstream because the tape deck came in.
Yeah, tape deck, CDs.
And so the tape deck came in, and that's why we never played records at home.
Right.
And of course, my dad's more advanced, and in updated era of technology or just era of our society. My mom was always in the past. But it was kind of fun just to have a tape deck and then run to the CD player. And then about 10 years ago, all these millennials started buying records and record players. And I thought about I thought it was really cool for them to do that. But for me to have MP3 player and MP3 stereos and all this stuff, that was great for me because I didn't have to buy stuff.
Right.
But it's like what I said before, having a record player and having that back, it's a different way of listening to music. Where you can actually, I feel like when you listen to music on a record player, you can actually do something like around the house or anything. And if you have an MP3 player, you would have it on your headphone, your phone, or your tablet, or whatever, and put your headphones on. But I feel like you're kind of like in your own zone, and then you're not really doing anything that productive.
I don't.
But that's one thing I think that MP3 players, or listening to it on Spotify or Pandora, kind of takes away. Is like,
well, it takes the fun away, I think, because it's so easy. You just push a button and there it is.
Yeah.
With the stereo, you got to dust the album off. You got to clean it. You got to put it on to make sure it's not skipped. Oh, another thing I was going to mention too. When you did have stereo back when you were a kid, you weren't allowed to jump in the living room because what that would do, it would make the record skip.
Oh yeah.
When the needle would skip, my dad would get very angry because it could ruin an album. So what he did is he took a piece of foam rubber and he put his turntable on that foam rubber. And that foam rubber would take the shock if there was any vibration. It would cut down. You still couldn't jump because it would make a vibration. The house is old enough where it would flex enough where it would make the needle jump. But this styrofoam or this foam rubber helped keep it stable and soak up some of the shock. It didn't work quite well, but it did work. So
Yeah,
I
that's
remember
cool.
that. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. And I said, Dad, why did you put a cushion underneath it so when you guys jump, the turntable doesn't skip?
Oh yeah.
It was an
That's
old
cool.
dual turntable, DUAL. I think it's they're
Okay.
dual. I don't know if they still make them, but back then that was I guess that was the state of the art. It was a good turntable. A dual turntable was great.
Well, you know what's weird about my turntable? It's Panasonic, but it's only $79. And there's another one that was $150, and I had it turns like, and I'm sure if he fixed that, it'd be like $225 or $200, maybe $150 because it's so dusty and old. But what's kind of weird is that they were trying to explain to me why it'd be more, why this was an intro record player, and then you go higher and higher.
Oh, sure.
And
Yeah,
it has to do with
get.
all the doohickey stuff that.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of controls to it, more than what you've got on yours.
Yeah,
Yours
so
looks
it's
pretty advanced though. I mean, as far as the tone arm goes, it's got little balancers on it. It's got. They didn't happen to have the instructions with that, did they?
Oh no.
No. Okay.
I
Now
think
you can look those up if you take the serial number.
Yeah.
And I don't know where it is you go to, but that's just about with anything. You can find the instructions. You can get them and print them out.
Well, it's on the website. You
Yeah,
can go to the
there's a
website.
website you go to. I don't know, but I've done that with I did that with my lawn tractor. I did that with my circular crosscut saw. And these are old items, but you just type it up and it'll print out some sheets. You're gonna have to staple them together, but that way you've got your instructions. Now you'll know exactly how to use that, which is nice.
Of course.
They still have that, and that's what's neat because it used to be when people first started getting into that kind of stuff, it wasn't that popular. I don't think you could really get instructions back then.
No.
I don't really think you could. Because if you didn't have instructions, you didn't have instructions. That's all there was to it. You'd have to figure it out.
Yeah.
But mine have been copied so much and done. Some of them are hard to see. You have to kind of really squint your eyes. But there's so many different adjustments and stuff. But it's not the exact one I have, but it's pretty darn close to it. It pretty much is. So that way, if you did get one for your Panasonic turntable, you could tell how to adjust this and how to adjust it if you had to.
Yeah.
And it seems well enough now where you don't have to mess with it.
No,
But that can be real critical sometimes too. I never messed with mine, but mine wasn't as complicated tone arm. It was just a simple tone arm that just worked. It was just a chintzy little tiny, probably a $60 stereo set. 2 speakers and a turntable.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
Yeah.
No tuner, no nothing like that. It was just a turntable, 2 speakers, which is fine.
So what I had to do about the speakers, and I was kind of like, I wanted better looking speakers.
Okay.
Those speakers remind me of like the ghetto blasters back in the 80s
Yeah.
for radio.
Yeah.
When back in the, I was
Blue
young.
boxes in the 80s were popular, yes.
So when I was young, and I watched MTV or anything, in the 80s, New York City, Boston, Detroit, the guys, the black dudes, were in jumpsuits.
Yep, running
around with
their
their ghetto blasters.
blaster on
and
their
do
shoulder, like this, just rocking it. Yep, oh yeah.
And they would do breakdancing and all that. So those speakers remind me of that. And if I had a ghetto blaster like that, then I would set it up like that. But I'm just not that. I'm wearing my New York Yankee hat and my CBGB shirt because they kind of go together. Because New York that's where CBGB came from. New York is a club. In New York, back in the 70s, were the Ramones and the Pretenders and the Talking Heads and Blondie, and that era first played music in those clubs. Because at the time, New York was kind of like a shithole, but it was kind of grungy punk rock. Punk. I don't know if punk rock really started in New York, but I think it started in Britain first, but then came overseas.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
So it kind of some people from Ramones say it's the other way around. The Ramones and all those guys started punk rock, and then the UK scene kind of like took over it for a while. But CBGB used to be a facility, a place where this guy, owned the bar, and he was not really a great person and didn't really care about music. He cared enough, but it was more like a folk country thing that he's tried to do in the inner city, I guess. And basically, he would sign. Well, he had the Ramones and Talking Heads and Pretenders and Blondie,
Okay.
and in the movie on Netflix, he always said they suck, which I think is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But then, over time and years later, in the mid 2000s, I think it was in 2010s that they tore down the building, or maybe it was early or late 2010s or whatever. But I'm pretty sure that they tore down the building. But that's kind of why I wear the CBGB, because it's kind of like that old history of where things used to be and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like the intersection in Grand Rapids used to be on Wealthy next to Mulligan's Bar.
I remember that. Yep.
And
Crowded too. Boy, it was crowded when you went in there.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Yeah, I remember when it was East Town.
Yeah.
It's downtown now. It's
downtown.
right down by the
And
brewery, isn't it?
It's downtown on Chavez Street.
You know,
Down right by Founders.
Yep.
Corner, just the other side of Tin Can, a block over from
Yeah.
a block over from Woody's, and a block over going north from Founders, and then a block over going south towards downtown, where the Woods is.
I don't know. Is it this place? Is it bigger than what it used
It's
to be?
huge, but it doesn't have that.
Okay.
It's huge, but it doesn't have that feel. It has a feel of a place where bands play, but it's not. It doesn't have that feel like it's a greasy, cool kind of place to hang out with,
Right.
or hang there before the show or
okay.
after the show.
Okay.
They only really open up hours before the show up,
Yep.
and then as the show is over, they leave. Everything's empty out.
Okay.
Where like it used to be, the intersection used to be on East Town on Wealthy Street. It'd be like a real bar.
Yeah. And
And
the
then-
band would come in.
And the band would come in, and then before, after, during, people would be drinking and all that. But the intersection down here kind of sucks. I think it sucks. I think
I've never been in there since it's been down here.
no, it's like they have the one room, really small, maybe 200 people.
Yeah.
And that's probably as close as you're going to get to what it used to be downtown on Eastern. And then the other side of it, it's huge. It probably fits maybe 1,500 people
Wow. Okay.
to stand, not sit.
Okay. Oh, sure. Yes.
So it's a big stage,
Okay.
but everyone's standing.
Okay.
But I feel it feels more like a club scene.
Sure.
Like I feel like if techno ever came back, that would be like a techno place where everybody like bouncing around and doing a rave or like rave era music, just jumping around and doing drugs. And the music is digital and everything's digital now, but I feel like it's not intimate. It's just too big. Where the intersection and Mulligan's Bar, even they have a speaker. I mean, they got a stage in a dance floor or people standing there.
Okay.
That's more intimate than the one that's intersection downtown.
Okay.
I feel like you're so far away from it, but you're not. So you can be like 50 yards away from the stage, and you feel like you're not even there.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And then you feel like you're that close to it, and then you're like, oh, this is kind of cool, but it's not the intersection.
You know another place, and it's basically like that. They do serve alcohol, but it's really expensive. It's 20 Monroe. I don't know if you've been there. Or GLC. Gun Lake Casino owns it.
Yeah.
It's 20 Monroe or GLC, whatever
Yeah,
you want
it's
to call it.
GLC now.
Yeah, it's GLC
The
now.
20
but,
Monroe,
yeah. And I've been in there. I went to see Pat Oswald, and it was a great show. And it was perfectly sound. It was good. The seat was good. And it's not I don't know how, I'm thinking it's probably going to seat 150 to 200 people, I think. I'm not really sure. But there's balcony space up there too. And there's tables you can order drinks, but the drinks are like $15. You pay $15 a drink, and then after that it's only $10. But still, a little drink like this costs you $10. And then the popcorn, that was $10. But that was, you buy the first box, and the next after that are free. But that's how they make their money. But it was a good venue. You can drink and you can watch the show, but it's not a restaurant.
No,
it's not. It's a bar, and it's not. I mean, you can bar whatever drink you want to get. They have either water or a drink, 1 or 2 drinks. That's it. There's not a big vast selection, but if
Yeah,
you
when
want,
when I went in there
it's
first
good.
time
It was neat.
with my buddy,
Mm-hmm.
Jay Out,
Mm-hmm.
and you know Jay Out, he did my TV and all that stuff. He had extra tickets, and his +1 couldn't make it.
Okay.
And he's like, "Oh, I'm downtown. You want to go see a show? Like, what kind of show is it?" And it's kind of like people singing songs, today's songs, like they're in the 1940s.
Oh, okay.
And it was really cool.
That's weird. That's different.
So yeah,
Okay,
so I like they sang anything from Maroon 5 to anything from.
So would they
Taylor
put it like
Swift.
did it with like a big band kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can see that now. Oh,
They did a big
that's
band,
interesting.
saxophone,
Yeah, okay,
trumpet
yeah.
a little bit.
Okay.
So every vocal was like the 1940s, from
Okay.
Taylor Swift to Maroon 5 to Ed
Interesting.
Sheeran.
Wow.
Anybody that you can think of in the last 15 years, they
Okay.
did that in the 1940s. And it was, you know what, I tell you, it was probably one of my favorite shows to see.
Mhm.
But you're right, that 20 Monroe or GLC building, it was very impressive. I like how
like
you
to
were.
say it out. It's easy to get into. There's no ramps. There's no stairs. And no elevators. Now I can't sit up on the balcony, but that's fine. It doesn't matter to me. That's fine. But as long as I get an initial place. That's
But
kinda
I
neat.
almost
Yeah.
thought that place was better
Mhm.
than the intersection, and I think
Yeah.
it was just better because even though you were on the bottom and you didn't have seats, but you had to buy the seats in the bottom, and then you had the seats that was not quite the balcony, but the next row, next layer over, next layer up.
Mhm.
It was more pricey, but it was worth it.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it's
I-
almost close enough to be intimate and close and not far enough not to be non-intimate, so you can still enjoy the show and watch it. And it was pretty cool. And just the way they set up the alcohol on the side, you can just during the show, you weren't really in the way. You didn't have to walk around in front of anybody to get the alcohol or any beverage if you're not drinking no more. Congratulations for you guys. But it was cool. The light was
The
really
lighting,
good.
okay.
Everything was really mellow, and I think that's probably one of my favorite venues
Okay.
because I think one of my other favorite venues is the Pyramid Scheme. Pyramid Scheme could probably only fit about 200 people.
Weren't we there before? Isn't that just down the street here? The game place? Is that or
Right,
no? That was
Commerce is gone.
This is different. Okay. It's
Yeah,
different
no.
then.
So that's the what you're thinking of right by the marketplace is that board game.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The other place I'm talking about is the pinball machine place.
Oh, okay.
Pyramid
Okay.
Scheme.
Pyramid scheme. Okay.
But what I like about that place is that the stage is just large enough, and it can get really crowded in there.
Mhm.
But the bar is in the back, and it feels like you're in a big venue place in a small joint.
Mhm.
So you feel like you're actually at a big show,
Oh, okay.
even though it's a small, tiny 200, maybe less than 200 people that can fit in that
Okay.
venue. But it's so cool how it's so closed in, but you feel like you're part of the experiment of live music.
Mhm.
Where, like what I said before, at the intersection, you feel like you're far away.
Yeah. Okay.
You always
I see
feel
what
like you're far away when you go in the intersection.
You know, another good one I like is DeVos. I like going to DeVos. That is, as far as sound goes and the way it sounds in there is wonderful. Because we were sitting stage left, upper balcony, or the middle balcony, because I think there's one more. I can't remember. Anyway, in stage left, and the seats are great. You're not right in front, but you're not way in back. And you're far enough away where you can really see them good, but it's not too far back. So I like DeVos too. I've been there. We saw who did we see there? We saw, gosh.
Did you see?
I saw Gordon Lightfoot.
Yep.
His last performance that we saw in Michigan.
Yeah.
Rather.
Yeah.
Thank God I went to see that. And he did wonderful. Even though he tried as best he could, but he was so old in his voice. But it didn't matter. He did a great show. And I'll tell you, whenever you go see somebody playing music in there, the acoustics in there, I think in DeVos are just really good. They're very good. I mean, better than 20 Monroe as well. I went to see Pat Oswalt, but I've never been to 20 Monroe with a musical thing, so I don't know what the acoustics are like. But I know DeVos is really good. This always has been. That's one of my favorite venues. Is DeVos.
I can agree with you. I think DeVos Place is a very cool place.
Yeah.
It's not. I think it's like 250.
I think
people.
yeah.
Well, only about 250 maybe. But yeah, but no, maybe a little bit more. Maybe it's like.
I think yeah.
I bet it's maybe 250 or maybe
Yeah.
2,500.
But
maybe it's
seats are
25.
nice though too, because sometimes what they did is the stage left. We were stage left, but the people didn't show up for their tickets, so they moved us over closer to the stage. So we moved over one balcony, I guess. But you got a little box.
Yeah.
And there's 2 people per box, I guess. So they moved us over closer to the stage, which is great. I mean, it was the same price. We didn't have to pay any more. But yeah, you're right. The acoustics are good in that. And just the view. Stage left is pretty good. If you're gonna go stage left, I would recommend stage left.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the handicap seating basically.
Yeah.
There's not a lot on the floor. Every place is different how they handle handicapped people.
Well, I think I think with that, well, to me that place just it's large enough to feel like you're there. It gave you kind of my sister and I saw the Michael Jackson musical, just this last June.
Okay.
And basically it was talking about Michael's last tour before he died. He didn't make it on the tour because he died. But
Okay.
I guess there was people worried about him, thinking about his past, his youth,
Right.
the 70s, the 80s, the 90s,
Yeah.
and then up to the time that he died. But they wrote it in that way that he would have different conversation with his siblings, his
Right.
managers, Quincy Jones, Gordy, the guy that started on Motown.
Okay.
And
yeah.
it was just so cool how they put it together. And the guy that played Michael Jackson, he actually mastered his voice and speaking.
Wow.
Very light, very Michael Jackson like. If you ever listen to Michael Jackson's voice, you know it's over feminine. It's more than feminine can be.
Oh yeah,
There are
very
women that
soft
don't.
and yeah,
But
right.
there are women that don't even sound that way. But it was for other reasons. Now I'm going to get into it. But it was cool how they made the play and everything. Like it was a really good musical.
Okay, good.
It's almost like a documentary musical.
Okay.
And it was that venue is you're probably right. That's probably my second or third favorite venue. Unfortunately, the worst place that you can see a show is probably the Van. And the reason why I say that is because their audio is not good, and you feel like you're in the Silverdome. I feel like I'm in the Silverdome.
I agree.
If everyone remembers what the Silverdome was in Pontiac. It's where the Detroit Lions played from the mid 70s to like 1996 or something, or like early 2000s. And it was one of the worst venues that you could ever imagine for music. And Vando was built for the sports,
Griffins,
Griffins and all that.
Yeah.
And I think that, and I've always surprised to see bands like Metallica, and even like Bob Seger came in like
Bob Seger's show was good. I went
15
to
years
that.
ago.
He did very good.
But I'm always surprised that they show up to a smaller 13 or roughly like 17 or 15,000 people that can fit in the band, because you take the middle of the ice ring or the basketball court or whatever, and you put another 400 people on the floor standing, and it was just not. The sound is this. I feel like they need to tear the whole sound up. I think they need to do the whole. I feel like they need to do the stadium over again, or the Van building. and where they can actually make it so the sound sounds better, and I feel like they could actually make it so that they'd be moving the seats closer somehow. I think even I feel like the Kalamazoo, the Kalamazoo lug, where the Kalamazoo lug,
Kalamazoo Wings.
Kalamazoo Wings play.
That was my stadium when I was growing up.
That place, I think that's better for music and sound.
You know, you're right.
Than the Van Andel.
Yeah. Now, I think Wings is just a little bit smaller than Van Andel. I think it's quite as big. It's a little bit smaller. But I grew up going to concerts there at the Wings Stadium. Now, so you said Van Andel. That's a good one because the wife and I went to see, I can't remember the name. They're an a cappella group. I think they're called, I can't remember. But she liked them. I thought, yeah, I guess we'll go. If you like them, you want to see them. Well, the opening act came in and went. Then when they started, I think it's called the Fetonics or the Tectonics or whatever. Anyway, the bass was just way too loud, and the music was louder than usual. I mean, it was that loud where we couldn't. The bass was so loud you could feel your chest shake. It was way too loud for us, and she liked the band, but we couldn't handle the sound. It was way too loud. I mean, it was. I mean, I've been to concerts before that were loud.
Yeah.
But I guess this newer stuff has a lot of bass, and they crank the bass up. The bass cranked up so that you could see a glass of water just sit there and vibrate like that. That's how bad it was. We had to leave early. We couldn't stand the sound. And I thought, if you're ever going to go to a concert, your best thing to do is bring a set of earplugs with you. Well, because now you still will be able to hear the concert, but it won't be as intense on your ears. Because I've been to concerts when I was a kid, and we walk outside and somebody talking to you, and you go, "Huh? What did you say? You can't hear because you're so loud." So yeah, that's happened before too. But yeah,
the bass came in. Mm-hmm. This is when the bass became popular.
Wow.
The bass became popular back in the early 1990s when hip hop and gangster rap first came out.
Yep.
And all the kids, counting myself, we bought speakers, audio, subwoofers to put in our car. And for some goddamn no we thought that having bass so loud and making your trunk rumble with no sound, just an earthquake.
Yeah.
And if you're not in the car, it sounds horrible. If you're in the car, it sounds super duper cool and way too loud for your own ears. Yeah. But you're still rolling down the street like it's a manageable lifestyle. And what's funny is that every once in a while I'll see a guy who's maybe either in his 20s or in their 40s. It's never like the 18-year-olds anymore.
No. It's
but you never see the 18-year-olds or 16-year-olds with those type of cars anymore. But it's funny when I see a bunch of 30s and 40-year-old guys that put that back in the car, and the car is like crusty. I'm like, you need you need to work on your body of the car before you even get in the speakers and the subwoofers and all that. Yeah. And second of all, women our age now are not going like, oh yeah, I'm gonna date this guy with the biggest speaker in the house.
Right. Yeah.
And so you have to understand when I say that, it's funny to me when I see that because I'm like, that's not in no more, and I don't know why you're doing that. Yeah. And it's usually the guys who are not. To me, they don't look like they're financially wealthy. Yeah. They look like they're like, you know what? My life sucks. I live in a small apartment. Yeah. I got a crusty car. I'm gonna put a subwoofer, a couple of speakers.
I'm gonna put a $3,000 stereo in it and rock you out.
And I'm gonna drive to McDonald's and back. And that's it. Because you're never gonna take a long road trip for that.
To me, that hot sauce and stereo or loud music are the same thing.
Hot sauce.
Hot sauce.
Oh.
Why do you get this hot sauce? It's so hot, ghost pepper sauce, that you can hardly feel your tongue and it numbs it. What's the point? What's the point? Why is it that hot that you can't stand it? Music's the same way. They're playing it so loud you can't hear yourself think. The bass is like, and when you get older, this is no shit. When you get older, your ears change. They do. They can't handle the loudness that they used to be able to.
Of course not.
And even if you like the music, and she likes Pentatonics or whoever they were, she loved the music, but it's too fucking loud. We had to leave. It was that bad. I'm sorry, Pentatonics, but we had to leave because our old ears just couldn't handle it. We can't.
Yeah, okay.
And what's the point?
But I don't think that's
You're just
because-
you're gonna end up deaf. Basically, if you hear that loud stereo all the time and that lower bass and that loud music, what's the point of having it that loud?
I think what it
I don't
is-
get that.
I think what it is this. It's like this. When you're in the bando and you don't have a good audio, anything that's supposed to sound good sounds terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So I think part of the problem was Vando's audio speakers and everything going on
Could
with
be,
it.
yeah.
And I think that's what one of the biggest problems is about the Bando Arena. Now, when people who are at home bumping their radio while I'm sleeping, this is when I first moved in, I get it that there were 20-year-olds, but I'm like, my God, you guys are 25. You guys knows no way you're in just freshmen in college.
Yeah, they're just young and dumb. They only think about themselves.
And
they're kids.
yeah, so I didn't like get mad at that, and surprisingly, they moved out quite after.
I remember that. I do remember that. Though.
But
at one night, they were just jamming. It's like
and
in the
then they
morning.
were so drunk that they started singing the song.
Oh yeah, I remember that too.
Remember
I'd say, hey, quit your singing and turn up the stereo because I don't like the way you guys are singing.
So this is one of those
bad.
nights that Ron comes over, and
I think there was a game on or something. We watched the game. We had some drinks and stuff.
We watched.
And we went to bed, and it was fine. It was about like midnight or so, somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, and it was fine. And then come 3 o'clock in the morning, I hear voices out in the hallway. And then I hear the door open. Next thing I know, I'm saying, are you fucking kidding me? Come on. And then they started singing. And I'm like, man, if this doesn't stop producing, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna bang on their door, and I'm gonna tell them to fucking quit it. And the minute I got up, I thought, that's it, I've had it. The music stopped. And then we didn't hear it from then on. It was like, finally, is that what we gotta do? I don't think you have a stereo like they did. I mean, you could hear that thing. That was loud.
No, I mean,
yours is loud, but it's not bad.
I could buy a couple more.
Well, you get it.
I could buy a
tuner,
subwoofer and then something.
You get a
tuner and then make it super loud. But the thing is like, I think even if I use my MP3 player, my Pandora, Spotify, and hooked it up to
Yeah.
I don't think it would have the same effect if I had a CD in a CD player and put it in there and then actually what I need to do is get a subwoofer.
Right. Okay.
To make the bass and everything sound 10 times better. Mm-hmm. But my subwoofer that I have is actually connected to my soundboard. I mean my sound.
Your sound bar.
Sound bar.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is not connected to the TV.
I wonder, could you use this? That probably wouldn't handle it, but I mean, could you use that bar for a subwoofer in a sense or not?
I think I could. I just think I have to figure.
I just wondered. Yeah.
I think I would have to figure out how to hook that subwoofer to the receiver, which I think is possible. Mm-hmm. But what I'm trying to say is that, when people who are that young, I mean, I get it, but what I don't get is when you're 45 years old and then you don't have money and then you're putting things into something. Some people think that my tattoos, I've got them way too old, too late.
There's no age limit to that. That's just
Tigers and my Guns N' Roses.
That's just.
Which I think in some ways, I agree with what they say. It's like, I am kind of way out of my league to get tattoos.
Right.
But in some ways, I'm like, that'd be one of those things that in my brain that I would kind of regret as I got to my 60s or in my 70s. Like, I should have gotten those tattoos.
Yeah,
but a lot of people, you know, a lot of people who are not me, who are married, have kids, go to church or not go to church, but have family members that they raise and all that. That's their lifestyle. That's their thing that makes them happy. Mm-hmm. And because I don't have that significant other, girlfriend or wife and kids,
right?
Like I make my life more interesting than I did in my 30s after all my friends moved out and got married. But they didn't move out for me, but they just went out and got married. And then I spent about a good 11 years of my life in Wyoming in that small dinky apartment, going to Manelli's. And I love Manelli's as a restaurant, and I love the owner, Joey, and his cousin, and I love those guys. But going to that bar twice a week and getting shit-faced, and I was never worried about getting pulled over drunk and driving, because the cops were never in that area, and they kind of worked with that region because they wanted to keep business running, moving, even during COVID. And so I was never concerned about that.
Right.
But what I came to figure out was like, damn, dude, I'm wasting my life just sitting in my apartment. And I would go out here and there, but I would never be downtown.
Right.
And being downtown, even though I don't go out every night or every weekend, and I almost feel guilty for not doing that, but I mean, you gotta have money, you have to save or something. But going out and just going to different restaurants, maybe picking up a cocktail or a bourbon or a old fashioned at Scholar, I'm surrounding myself around people who are having a good time.
Right.
Even though they're not having a good time with me, I'd rather see people having a nice time with their significant other or their friends. And I joined the social group for the 30s and 40s recently. And the reason why I did that is because I can't really hang out with a bunch of 22 or 28-year-olds.
No.
Because they're just really out of my age group.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And it's just not, I mean, it's just, and it's weird. I know that there are a lot of men who date 20-year-olds who are somewhat financially better off than I am. And there's women that only date 45-year-old guys who are wealthier. But in reality, 48-year-olds and 22-year-olds who intermix with each other don't have much in anything in common. So that's part of the reason why those relationships don't really last, and or they become artificially not what they really should be. But just going out and just being able to talk to people that I've never been able to talk to again, which is fine with me because it gets me out of the house, it gets me to do something, it gets me to socialize. Like I was just over we should actually talk about the Rogers Plaza Metro Cruise.
Oh yeah.
Because
that was fun.
Sitting down by AutoZone with you, watching those cars come by and going and looking at the cars and you name them what they were, and that was real awesome. And going to see Lanning's band, which another guy's name is Jason. Those two guys have known each other for so long and been in the band together. And that other guy quit his teaching job that he taught in Wyoming so that he can be an all-around. He would do cover shows to everybody. That's how he makes a living.
Wow.
Which is kind of weird to me because I mean, how many times can you see someone, the same guy, and he's got a very good, unique voice. It's really lower and kind of not rusty, but how can I explain it? It's a little bit like James. No, it's a little bit like Bob Stewart and Bob
Seger.
Bob Seger.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's a little lower than that. Can't really put a voice with him because he's got a unique voice. He almost looks a little bit like James Hetfield or Bob Seger. He's got a little lower voice than any of those two guys. Not as low as Barry White's, but he's got a little cracky, rusty voice sometimes. And his wife she's a pretty good singer herself. But it's kind of cool how he comes up, become a band and all that. But it's really unique that he's able to make a living for doing like 3-4 shows a week. And he said he gets paid like $150-$200.
Wow.
To do like bars and do like going to the casino and going other places. But he usually stays with a friend on the weekends, on the weekend that he's there, so he doesn't have to pay for room and board.
Oh, I see.
So that really works out for him. But it's like he's almost like living like a hippie, almost like a Grateful Dead artist. But instead of being a fan that's a groupie, He's the artist that does cover bands, cover songs.
Okay.
But it's kind of weird because it's like, that's got to be a weird thing to tell people that you're going to do a cover, that all you do is a cover band. And he comes up with his own original song sometimes. And I heard one of his original songs. It was all right. I think he just got sick. I think he kind of knew that he wasn't going to really make it. I think a lot of bands, even from 20 years ago, they just... Oh, I just turned off my...
Oh, your camera just...
My camera just went off.
Okay.
But it was just kind of weird to see that it was just kind of weird to know that he's doing that.
Okay.
And it's like, I remember this kid named A.B. Coconut Group. He's a hip hop artist back in the late 90s. He's now a professional DJ in the Grand Rapids area.
Okay.
Goes to Detroit and all this. And it's almost like his era has ended and he doesn't really know it. But he gets enough fan base where he can do big shows for parties, which fits for him real well. But when he does things on Instagram, and I would say the same thing. I mean, me putting myself on YouTube and all that, you just kind of realize maybe my time is past, but I feel like when I do this podcast, I'm not trying to fill in like I'm filling my own database, but based on my disability, based on my personality. I'm not trying to fit in like Howard Stewart, or I'm not trying to be like Joe Rogan, super funny comedian, make really bad jokes, which are really funny but bad. So I feel like I'm a little different. So in that way, that's kind of the way I feel about. That's how I do things. With the podcast, I'm gonna put this probably on YouTube if it's okay with you. If it's not, then I'll just do one on myself.
Okay.
Because I have to still talk with Griff. Well, working with a camera is a lot different on a camcorder than a lot different on an Apple phone.
Yep.
So I feel like the sound on the Apple is a lot better than the sound from, because I have to line up the audio from the camcorder to the video.
Okay.
So that's why I make a bang on the table to line up the sound.
Oh, okay.
So what happens is that I'm just trying to tell people how I'm doing this, or I'm learning how to do this. So when I push play for my camcorder or my
Your Apple
phone,
yeah.
I push play, and then before the music comes on, I put boom, so it picks up the sound, especially for my camcorder.
Okay.
So that when I save it, I'm MP3 player. I'm supposed to also save it as the wave.
Oh, okay.
So then I line up the wave to the video, and when I line it up, hopefully it pretty much isn't like a Chinese movie in the 70s.
Okay. Yeah.
People don't understand what I'm saying, because back then what they did is they would show movies in the 70s of Chinese karate or
Kung Fu
fighting,
Kung Fu fighting.
Kung Fu and all this stuff. And they would have American accent, American
They
voice.
would be dubbed, yeah.
Dubbed.
They would be, yeah.
And the guy would still sound like in
Captions. There would be
captions, and he'd be like a Chinese, but he would be obviously American, speaking like a Chinese guy, but it was really bad. And anything that mouth was saying, it wouldn't line up to with the audio. And so like, I will fight you all the time, and then all you see is the mouth, the guy's voice still moving, or the vocal of the guy's the audio, the video of the guy's voice, the mouth still moving, and they like, that doesn't line up. And how that made it, and how that made it on TV in America in the 70s is crazy to say that. That'd be one of the most racist things that you can imagine.
It is.
The Chinese don't care. They make Chinese food on Sundays anyways, and they go to church. It's not like they love Jesus. They believe in their own God anyways. So it's like, it's amazing that was acceptable. And if you watch some of the Bruce Lee movies.
But that was the 70s though. Things are so much different now. And that was not... See, a lot of racial stuff back in the 70s was just the norm. You didn't blink an eye.
But it was kinda
nowadays,
funny.
yeah. But nowadays, it's totally different.
Like Archie Bunker
totally
was
different.
great.
Yeah, everything's just different.
The Jeffersons were pretty
Yeah,
good.
that was good too. I liked the Jeffersons. It was a good show.
Good Time was pretty good until the dad decided that the son shouldn't be a dumb idiot, and he didn't like the way they rated of the show.
Oh yeah.
The kid that played, the guy that played.
Oh, Jimmy Walker.
The
JJ Walker. Yeah, I don't think he's not funny anymore.
Well, he's
I
not.
never,
Well, he's
I
old.
didn't-
He's old
I know.
now, and the
I didn't
thing
even
is-
think he was that funny anyway. I really didn't care for him.
Well, I think what it is that the father of the show, the guy, the character,
Yeah,
he didn't like it. That he made,
that's John Amos, I think. I
Yeah.
believe so. Yeah, John Amos.
and he didn't like it because they made JJ, the character, his son, into kind of like this dummy pre-hip hop kind of kid, where the kid is a hip hop enthusiast, and that's all he thinks about or acts like, and so then he acts really not thuggish because that's not what it came out. The thuggish personality didn't come out until the 90s, but it really kind of like low IQ almost genre where he's not supposed to be smart or intelligent, and made him more like a street credit dummy, and that's why he didn't like that character. So he left the show because the guy who wrote Archie Bunker and Good Times, and he created the Jeffersons.
Yeah, that was. I should know. No, I can't think of it. People know who we're talking about. Yeah.
But I mean, I just feel like, but those shows were actually better than they are Sony shows now. I mean, you can make an argument about, you like Dexter and I like Shameless, but even I think that's why I like Shameless, because that's what people really go through when they're just not poor, but they're addicted to the drugs. With
they show that side. That's great.
Well, even though with like Frank Gallagher and Monica, his wife, she played a really good bipolar addict.
Great. She nailed the part. I think that was a good choice for her.
And a lot of people that don't understand this is like Frank Gallagher was a college kid that met Monica one night, and she was butt naked in the story with her. This is the funeral of Monica, and Lip, the older son of the Gallaghers.
Right.
He's as smart as Frank is, but he doesn't do other drugs, but he's too street stupid to stay out of trouble. So, I mean, you have Fiona, and Fiona's quite intelligent young lady on the show, but then she turns into an angry drunk and she leaves the show because of other reasons, but it just fit into what real life was about. And that's what you don't see on TV anymore. It's like you don't see real families. You don't I think for the longest time, I think even in the mid 2000s, they advertised a lot about divorcees and divorced parents and divorced stuff. And they were just feeding this memo that everyone should be divorced, women should divorce. And it was just a weird environment to watch, where in reality, you still have people who are maybe divorced, like Monica and Frank, but they're never really divorced, but they're never together. And that's what made that show really good. I didn't have to go through being a drug addict. I was, I would consider myself a weekend drunk back in my good old days.
And William Macy, he's an incredible actor. I hated Frank. I couldn't stand Frank, and he did such a good job because everybody wants to hate Frank because nobody trusts Frank. Frank's always up to something. I don't care how honest you think he is; he's not.
Frank was,
and he did a great job in it, and I love that. And it was funny because I was watching the gal that played Deb, the redhead. God, she's gorgeous. She's a cutie. Anyway, I was watching the Connors. This is after Roseanne. This is Connors. Okay. Yeah. William H. Macy shows up the door. Now, the gal that played Debbie plays Darlene's daughter from her first marriage. And he answers the door, and she opens the door and looks at him and goes, have we met before? And I'm thinking, oh, I knew they were going to do that. They always do that.
Yeah.
If you have people that start on a show at one time, and
Yeah.
they always say that. I knew it was coming. He opened the door to William Mason. I know she's going to say, have we met before? And
Yeah.
it does. And she goes, oh, never mind. And then that was it. But he played an asshole on the Connors too, because he was like, oh, Dan made up with Dan since high school. Da, da, da. We're going to be good friends. I love you. Da, 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 da. And then the next thing, he turns the tables around. William H. Macy says something real derogatory or something really bad. Like, hey, see this guy here? He had borrowed $6,000 from me. He cut him down in front of everybody, embarrassed him. And so, like, Dan's, like, humiliated because he just turned the tables on him. So he reaches out and he decks him. Takes William H. Macy, he smacks him and knocks him down.
And that's kind of what everyone...
Yes.
And
Yes, do that because you're an asshole. Pow.
I get it because that was really the thing.
But
that's what Frank Gallagher should have been punched in the face by everybody.
You remember he got pissed on by Lip? I don't
First
remember that
season.
scene. The first season, he walks up, he's underneath the door, he goes, "Look, Flip, I'm sorry," and he goes, "Oh," he goes, "Oh, fuck it, man." He go ahead, pee away, and walks off. And it's winter. It's cold out. And he's walking. He's this guy who's urine all over, just steaming.
I can't imagine.
Steam's coming up. I loved it. That was funny. That was a great show.
I can't imagine. I just can't imagine.
I'm sure it wasn't really pee. I'm sure
No,
it was
but
up
I just
there
can't
pouring
imagine
out of a
that's
bottle.
really- But that storyline.
Yeah, I mean,
You have to
it's
get
like,
that from someone.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, I'm an asshole. Okay, yeah, go ahead and piss on me. I deserve it.
But really,
I deserve it. I'm like, okay, Frank, now you're getting it.
But this is the first season.
Right.
He still didn't learn.
No, he didn't. He never did.
But the thing is about that show that
That was done well though. I mean, I like the part where he dies. He's on a bar stool and he's kind of slowly floating up to heaven. That's so Frank.
Yeah.
That's so perfect like that. I mean, I kind of imagine that's the way he's going to be at a bar forever. For now in eternity, he's going to be sitting at a bar getting drunk. That's all he's going to do from now on to eternity. And then he just floats up and he's above the bar and he's floating up into heaven. But he's going to heaven. Mm-hmm. Now, how the hell did that happen? Who did he talk to?
All dogs
he
go to
talked
heaven.
to somebody.
All dogs go to heaven.
Yeah, I guess.
That's how.
I guess.
That's the way I look at it.
That was a good show, though. Yeah,
but I think that's probably my only great. I think This Is Us was a good show.
It was, yeah, it was very good. I heard about it. People told me. What's this all about?
I watched through the first 40 years, and there's a complex in that movie. In that show with the adopted son that they adopted as a black child because they had triplets.
Oh, and that was.
But the the third one died.
That was.
Then they adopted the black child.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
The black folk family at the time gave
it was
up the child for
because
adoption.
because the way I understood it, that was their kid, and I'm thinking
no, that
unless she had him with some other guy that was another guy that.
No, what happened is that
that's what
happened.
Okay,
well,
so they adopted him basically.
What happened is that they had triplets, and that the third child died at stillbirth or something, and then the young black folk family, they were kind of like addicts, and she gave birth, and I think she dies giving birth, and the father, who's on the show, he's on the show. Okay. He goes to the hospital and he brings the child to the hospital and leaves, and then within the same time, the couple lose the third child, one of the triplets, and then they see a black baby by itself, and then they wonder what they can do to adopt the child, and they do it.
Oh, okay.
But what's cool about that show is that there's a certain feud between the children who are not adopted and the child who is adopted, especially the boys.
Okay.
Because it's like this inner competition that all boys go through. But this is more complex because one child is adopted and black, the other child is white and beautiful, just like the rest of the family. Not saying black people are not beautiful, but in this segment, they make it out like this is why he's having problems because the black kid is getting more attention because he's
Well, he's the youngest one.
No, but he's not.
What?
No, but he's not. He's a triplet.
No, I'm just saying, in the family, in the Gallaghers, now that he's in with the Gallaghers, he is the youngest one.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. No, I'm talking about This Is Us.
Oh,
show.
sorry. I thought you were talking about
No, This Is
Shameless.
Us.
Oh, sorry. Pardon me.
No, This Is Us.
Oh, okay.
So
All right.
the black child
Oh, okay.
is adopted child who's taken place of the third child who was a triplet.
Oh,
So
right.
the third child was born as stillbirth, and the mom sees the baby in the nursing cage or room, and she said, "Who's the baby? Is that?" And then they decided to adopt the child right in the spot, take the child as their own to replace the baby that died in stillbirth.
Okay.
And so the oldest of the triplet,
Mm-hmm.
and the adoptee, who was about the same age, because they're both infants, blood babies, they have this conflict with each other.
Oh.
And this conflict kind of gets better and kind of gets worse, but I didn't really watch the rest of the show because it was just kind of dragging on to, I don't know. For me, being adopted, I didn't really have problems with my family members. I was a bit older than them all.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the difference between them and us is that I was a little older, and I was, they're all smarter than me when it comes to book smart and IQ level and all that. But they had it. I think they had an easier way of adjusting to life and adjusting to expectations. For me, it was not that easy to get to what I wanted to go to what I wanted to be.
Mm.
Other reasons because I just couldn't do it.
Okay.
But I don't think I had that much of an issue with my siblings about competition and all that. My family members just have different personalities than I do.
Mm.
I'm much more of a social person,
Mm-hmm.
and then my siblings are much more like homebodies.
Yes. Okay.
Completely homebodies about the family, and that's all they really do. And then they go to church, and then they tell me to go to church. Well, only one does. Well, it's my brother-in-law. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to be right next to Jesus as he's looking up to me. Like, what are you doing there? Jesus likes me more. Because I need to go to church.
Oh, Andrew,
Could you imagine? But look, he still didn't fix my left hand.
No, yeah, I still didn't.
See? He didn't fix my left hand, but I'm sitting next to him. Cheers. Can you make water into Founders? Could you imagine that?
Here, Founders Porter, please.
Brought to you by Heavy.
Now I want an oatmeal stout, a nitro oatmeal stout. Thank you, please. That stuff will get you in trouble.
So I tell you what, we got maybe 4.5 minutes left.
Okay.
Just to end it.
All
So
right.
we just don't just end it.
All right.
But I just think that doing this podcast or doing something like this, I'm still not convinced about becoming famous because it's not like my material.
No.
Well, my material is nothing like it's nothing high intelligent or high entertaining. I mean, and I can make it high entertaining, and I can make it an obnoxious show.
Yeah, but
the thing about that though is that my audience will become very cynical, funny, then other people can enjoy it. I think I would love to do stand-up and be really raunchy if I could do a show where like Joe Rogan was there, or a place where like comedians would work in that region.
right.
But I don't know if I could ever feel that. Like, I can't imagine feeling that Sam Kinstein energy all the time. Or even Bill Burr energy about how women this, women that.
Oh, Bill Burr, yeah. Bill Burr's very
He's
energetic,
funny. I
very
love
high,
Bill
yes.
Burr, and I love Sam Kinstein.
Oh, I like, I don't know if anybody knows that, but there's this, what's the name of that show? It's a cartoon. Now, Bill Burr does the.
You talking about the R show?
Yeah, the F is for family.
The F is family.
Yeah, I'd recommend. It's a cartoon, but it's hilarious. It's very, very 70s. Very 70s.
Very
well done, like the 70s show. The clothing, the cars, the attitude, the drinking, the everything. It's just so 70s, and it's perfect because I grew up in the 70s. They did everything just perfectly right, exactly the way it went for me. I remember that.
Yeah.
And I got the same feeling I did when I was back then. So that I did like that show. That is, he's got that significant voice.
Yeah.
Bill Burr's got that
kind of whiny
voice,
Boston.
but
It's
really,
I can't even speak like
he was in a movie. I can't remember. I think it was called Fathership or something where he's a father and
he's old, like this is
and he's
this is parenting, this is fatherhood,
this is fatherhood,
or something like that.
And he was in it. It was pretty good. I at first I'm kind of like, I don't know, and as I went in further, it got better, and I'm like, okay, I guess he's.
It's funny because he's dealing with all these moms who are like,
it's
all
it's
this like progressive
school,
attitude.
they've got this
this.
like school where all the kids get rewards, and it's
and he shows up to picking up his kid too late. Late. And he's like, "What? I had traffic. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't need to be apologizing to you.
Yeah,
it's just one of those things." And the lady who bitches at him, she's the same lady that did the 40-year-old the Hangover, which played the guy's wife that complained about everything.
And recognize her.
And you're not going to go to Vegas and go to the strip joint. It's like, no, we're not going to do that. And this is Hangover. No, we're not going to do that. And then the three guys, The Bachelor, the other two guys, I forget the other two guys' names, but they go pick him up in this nice 1950s car. It's an antique. And they yell at the window.
Wow.
Outside, so they're in the car. She's having this talk. You're not going to strip joints, and then one thing and another. The guy says, "Mr. Faggot, we're here to pick you up. Come on outside, Mr. Faggot." Remember that Hangover movie?
Yeah,
you gotta remember.
I think
So he says
vaguely, but yeah.
So that part, I thought was just funny. To me, that was funny because back in the 80s and 90s, we didn't know anyone that was gay. But if you said something really stupid or feminine, they're like, "What are you talking about?" We usually call you gay. And that was just one of those things in the 80s and 90s that we didn't call you gay because we actually thought you were gay, or we're not discriminating against you because you're a homosexual. We just thought whatever you're saying is really dumb.
Okay.
Which is different because now today you can't say Mr. Faggot or gay or queer, and you can't just be a dickhead.
It depends on the context, though. I mean, you can say the word queer. It's not as harsh as it used to be. Now it means that you're gay. It's more of a. It used to be a slang or a slang term, but now it's.
But it used to be a negative term to make it funny and joke out of something.
Right.
But I mean, I'll tell you what. The gay community is the only ones that could call each other, the F. I just said times, fag or whatever. But as a person who's not gay, we can't just go around and say, "Hey, what's up, fag?" and people be insulted. So in that movie content, it was funny because they kind of placed that movie. It was made 10 years ago. But you could tell that the person who wrote that movie probably was in his 40s already, or in his early 50s. I feel like he was a teenager. I feel like he was a teenager when it was late 1990s, early 1990s and 80s, because those jokes that you see on that movie Hangover was very much, I could see that happening with my friends, where we pick someone up and he's late. We always had one guy who was always very late and getting ready, and we would wait, and we'd call him upstairs and, "Hey, come on, girly man, let's go. We gotta go. It's like 10:30 at night." And he told us to be there at 9:30, and we're still waiting for him to get dressed. So we call him girly man. Like, "Come on, girly man, let's get to that guys. I need to go. Come on, let's go."
Mr. X is the same way. He'll say, "Give me 10 minutes." 15 minutes go by. Finally 20, here he comes out the door. Man, you take forever. It's like some women are like that. I'm glad my wife is not one of these gals that gets her nails done and puts all this makeup on it. I'm glad she's not, because
No.
that just drives me nuts. Because there's women that are constantly doing their nails, and that's fine, but she's low maintenance. She's in the bathroom for maybe 10 minutes, and that's it. There's no makeup. There's no, the shower, whatever. Fine, but she's not into putting all that makeup on and doing the nails and stuff, and that's fine with me. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like gals that look pretty and they got nails and stuff. That's fine. It's maintenance, but they put a lot of money and time into their makeup and their time. And when she, come on, honey, we got to get ready. And she's like, well, I'll be ready in just a minute. And I'm like, well, TikTok, we got to be there, So I'm glad that she's not high maintenance. I really am. Because now when we go somewhere, we're going to go somewhere. We won't be late. Where other gals, wait a minute, I got to blow dry this one more and my nails are wet. I got it. I'm like, oh, come on.
I know what's funny. I think one of those things that I used to think that's all a little girl thing, but I think those guys out there.
You're right. Yeah, there's guys that take their time.
These two
and
guys
just,
that I know that I used to hang out with, and we go clubbing, and they would take them forever.
Oh yeah, they got everything
But
just
I think,
right.
But I think that it's like, I feel like that era of, I just feel like when I go downtown and it's Friday, Saturday night, and I'm going to the Scholar for a drink, coming back, I'm just so surprised all these girls. Well, you can tell that womanhood, or the way that women want to dress and act, isn't really that extreme to what people think that there are a lot of girls that want to turn to boys and boys want to turn to girls and all that. And it's in that reinforcement. All you have to do is go downtown and you see all the guys in these who work out in jacked up shirts, and then they like the shirts too small, but their muscles are
muscle heads.
But they're not really muscle heads; they're just built a little stronger.
Right.
So, and then you see a lot of these 20-year-olds still looking like women back in the 1990s and 2000s. So it's funny that we live in an era where everything's like in a progressive thing, but in reality, we still have a lot more people who are to the genre.
Styles have gone different too. Now it's going backwards. A lot of stuff that wasn't popular is now coming back. I see kids wearing bell bottoms now. Sometimes I see them wearing new shirts. I see them, So there's no. It's not like in the '60s where you're a hippie or you were a nerd or you were a goody two shoes. There's three different groups that you say. Now it's not. There's no significant person.
No.
There's all kinds of people. There's people that like to dress in vintage clothing. There's people that go back to the vintage stuff, and like hippies. Hippies are back now too, more than ever.
Yeah,
a lot of hippies
know.
don't have long hair like they used to. But
I think
my stepson's a hippie. He's into that meditation and that guru and that second life and that.
Are you talking about a kid in Arizona?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't look like a hippie. He looks like a skinhead.
He doesn't. He does look like a
hippie. He
is
looks
basically
like
hippie. Kombucha and the
reminds
spiritual
me.
He
kind of reminds me of Smashing Pumpkins lead singer.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like he doesn't mind. I think the hippie era, to me,
it's a little.
I think it'll come back, but I think the problem with but the thing is like right now, the problem is that the reason why to me the hippie era is not coming back right now is because hippie era women still prefer to be around men who are in that same genre of their atmosphere. Right now, I feel the women right now really in a to make a long story short, women right now think they're more superior to men, and they either complain about not finding a good guy, or they complain that the guy is not fit for them because they think they're too beautiful of a being, so their expectations are way too high. But in reality, that's why the hippie era won't be coming back anytime soon until in a generation of younger women who are maybe 10 years old, but maybe when they're 20, they're not looking for that superficial look to themselves and superficial attitude towards the guys are.
Yeah, there's hippies, but they're not like 60s hippies. They're different,
I mean,
but they still kind of have that off the grid, build your own house, make your own clothing, make your own kombucha, blah, 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 whatever. There's a couple shows that they have this family, and what they do is they live in these earth houses. You take this big, long, giant sock. It's about this big around. You fill it with dirt. And what you do is it's a long tube, and you keep filling it with dirt, and then you're tapping it. And it's like, if you ever made a pot, a clay pot before, where you take and you roll a bunch of pieces in rolls, long snakes, and then you stack them together. Same thing. Basically, what they do is they start out with a spiral, and they lay it down, and they put it, and they keep circling around and around and around and around. Now, some of these are nailed into the other sand. Some of the sand will kind of actually, after a while, settle. So what they do is they take, they make this called cob. It's, well, it depends on what formula you use, but some formulas have cow manure, soil, hay, or straw rather, and a few other ingredients, water, whatever. And they make this thing called cob. It's a actual building material. And what they do, so basically what they're doing is you're making these long sandbags, or dirt bags, okay?
Yeah.
Sand or dirt. They're tamped down, they're leveled, and then where you want to put a window, you stop there, put the window in, you drive a couple spikes from the window out so they'll stick into the sandbag. Now, once everything, the sand gets wet or it settles, and it finally settles, and you get the cob in, everything settles, it's pretty well solid. It's insulated year round. It's not hot, it's not cold, it's perfect temperature. It takes a long time to build one though, and there's a lot of effort in building in it, but it's not as expensive as a modern day house would be, but it's much, much more labor intensive.
It sounds like you're more describing people who are living off the grid.
Yeah, off the grid, but they're kind of, this gal's kind of like I call them modern day hippies when they do that thing where they do the dreadlocks in their hair, where they take their hair and they grind, they put honey in it, and make it kind of like it's these like mats and which is fine. She's kind of that way, but they're not really hippie. They're I call modern day off the grid hippie type people, where they have their family and their dog and everything, but they're way out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And they survive on their own off the grid, which is fine. But in order to do that, you got to work your ass off. It's just like going back to the pioneer days.
I wonder.
You couldn't just go down and get a drink of water. You had to go down, lift the well up, get the drink, and then bring the rest of the buckets and stuff to the house.
Would you consider, let's say?
That'd be.
Hey, here's a question for you.
Yeah.
If you had an opportunity, you see a girl and she's kind of maybe a little bit of your style, but come to find out she got hair on her pits and maybe kind of fuzzies down on her leg and then big old hairy bush, which smell like let's say a raccoon that was hit on the road. Would you go for that? That would be an eventful moment. Think about that.
That's out of the norm. I've seen it before.
Like, I'm ready whenever you are, sweetie pie.
You know, I've
Put
seen it
there,
before, and I've seen gals that some people that I've known they're that way, where they don't shave their legs, they don't shave their pits, they don't use any deodorant, and that's so. When I see a woman and she's got hairy pits and she's sweaty and she smells like BO, no, thank you. That just turns me off. I'm sorry. I not that it's wrong with women. That doesn't attract. I think that's really, because when I was a kid, what I grew up is women would shave their legs. They would shave their pits. They would wear deodorant. They would just be ladylike.
Yeah.
These gals don't care. They could sweat, have hairy pits, and if you want to be that way, and that's fine. I don't care. I think that's fine. Be the way you want to be. But as for a gal that I'd be attracted, no, I would not. I'm just old school that way, and I
tell you what.
Well,
France back in the day was known for women that didn't do that stuff, and I've been told that if I was living in an environment like that, and I didn't wear deodorant and nothing at all, I heard that within the first 2 months you'd be extremely, your nose hair would be sort of annoyed. But the longer that you live in that community,
I'm sure you would get used to it.
Used to it and everything else, and then that body odor of that person or her would become immunized, so that it wouldn't affect you as much. So prefer. But what I would tell you this is that back in the day, if a girl had pubes down there, you're like, oh, all right, let's roll it and go, and it's almost, I'm almost that old enough to like say I would prefer a woman with something down there a little bit than just a clean slate. Because a clean slate would mean like, what is she, 12? I mean,
Oh,
13.
right, yeah. I don't know.
I don't need to deal with someone
I've seen a
that's
clean
13.
slate. I could either work with me, clean slate or not. It wouldn't. Well, it all depends too. But
some women
yeah.
just don't shave it all, and it's just like a big old furry animal down
But
there.
what they used to before people would because they didn't have showers back then, they would take baths instead of taking a bath. That's how perfume was. Perfume was actually meant to cover up smells.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually make you smell good back then.
No.
So people would put on perfume because, well, I have time now. I gotta heat the water. I gotta make a fire. I gotta heat the water. I don't have time for a shower, a bath now. So I'll just put a little bit more this on and a little bit this on, and I'll still smell, but I won't smell as bad. So it'll kind of take that smell away. So I think that's when perfume came out too. That's what I was told through history, that perfume was meant to cover up smells instead of making you smell good. Now, when you smell perfume, it's like, oh, it smells really good. And it's not meant to cover up. It's meant, perfume now is more meant to attract than it would be to cover up, I think, nowadays. Because sometimes because some gal will walk by, you don't even know her, a stranger, she'll walk by and you'll catch her perfume and whatever, and it'll almost knock you on your ass. You're like, not because it's strong and intense, because it does something. You're like, ooh, it like,
well, you know,
I don't know, makes you horny or what it does, but it gets your attention. You're like, oh, I gotta check. Yeah, I gotta check that.
Well, you know
That's,
that for each person that wears cologne or perfume, I would call it perfume for anywhere around the world. It's more perfume. In America, they call it cologne for guys and perfume for girls.
Right.
But the reason why that perfume smells real good on some girls and not others is because it's the way of the body.
Your body chemistry.
Body
You're
chemistry
right.
and sweats.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not actually smelling the perfume. You're smelling her.
I know what you mean.
Her.
It's like I said.
Her scent for you to mate with her.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
It's
it's
same thing with girls when they walk by a guy and then turn around and let's say he's attractive or somewhat attractive or whatever, and they take a sniff of his cologne, but what their nose is really picking up is more of the guy's sweat, and that's what maybe turned her on to him.
I've heard of that, pheromones. Yeah, pheromones. That's what I meant. Yeah, pheromones.
So
okay.
in that way, that probably has to do more with that. Where there's certain colognes that we use that everyone uses because it's popular in this mainstream. But yes, you're right. There's some women that have fine perfume that just makes their pheromones or something that just accelerates your own attractiveness.
I'm not a cologne guy myself. I used to get like cologne for Christmas and stuff like that, but I wouldn't wear it that often, and eventually it would just go sour. So I'm not a perfume. I wear deodorant, of course, but my deodorant smells so good, I can use that for a perfume because I've put it on before. People are like, is that a cologne you got? What's that cologne called? I said, it's not cologne. It's my deodorant. Yeah. It's Degree. Degree. It works, and it works good, and it smells great. And this, I'll recommend Degree. I used to use Right Guard. It's 72 hours. Bullshit. This Degree, it'll do about 72 max. Yeah. After that, it's just no good anymore. But this stuff, I think I'm finally sold. I found one that worked good. Is Degree, and that's what I usually use, and that's all I wear. And I've got a lot of compliments on it too. That, what is that? Oh, that's my deodorant. What's it called? Degree. Oh, yeah. Or even laundry soap. When I was in the hospital in Mary Free Bed, one of the nurses walked in. She smelled good. I said, "Dang!" I said, "What is that perfume you got?" Well, that's not perfume. That's Gain. I said, "You mean laundry detergent?" She goes, "Yeah." I go, "Wow, it smelled really good. It really did." I think
I'm allergic to Tide, and so I use Gain, but I don't use.
I don't
use Gain because I buy the stuff from Sam's Club.
Okay.
And I bought 2 cases for $19 each. It has 60.
We use pods, you know.
Pods.
We try to use pods.
It has 60 pods per bag. So I have another bag, and I still have another case.
Good for you. Yeah, that's what they want. They want you to go to pods because the container that the pods come in is either plastic or it could be cardboard, whatever. Yeah. But the initial soap itself is in that gel pack that disintegrates, and there's nothing left, and it's easy. You don't have to measure; you just throw it in. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get more with the pods instead of getting away from the liquid detergent because of the plastic bottles. It's not the detergent that's polluting, it's the plastic bottles.
Yeah.
And there's another thing we got to figure out how to, and it used to be glass. Back in the 1800s, most everything was a lot of things were put in glass.
Yeah.
And the way they would dispose of it was to throw it in their outhouse. Okay? That's the only way you didn't really have garbage men back then per se. You had maybe a pit out back that you throw all your garbage in and it would rot outside, whatever. But a lot of that went into the outhouse. So what happens is this guy goes around, he's from Arizona or somewhere, and he gets these where these towns were, and he has a plot. And he can find out exactly where the outhouses were. And what he does, he digs in there and he finds all kinds of bottles. Medicine bottles, ketchup bottles, booze bottles, whiskey bottles, beer bottles, any kind of thing that's brown, green, or glass. Sometimes even cups, china, anything that broke that was no good, you'd throw it in your outhouse. So now he digs it up and makes money off it because some of these bottles are really collectible.
Yeah.
And they're beautiful bottles. They were well made back then. So I'm thinking, why don't we just start making more stuff out of glass instead? Now glass is fine, but the only drawback about glass is it does break. You can drop it, it breaks. Plastic doesn't break. Well,
but plastic
it'll split. But I'm just saying, plastic has become more prominent. And I like glass better, but the only thing about glass is glass will break when it drops, where plastic doesn't.
Well, I think what's going to happen, though, they've been already saying that plastic is environmentally not great for the environment. And even when you drink a bottle of water and you leave it in the car, the chemical, the plastic, and the heat and the water mixed together, hypothetically, it can cause cancer.
Yeah, I've heard
Yes.
that. Yeah.
So when I say this, like, you're right. They probably will go back to what they're trying to do is go back to aluminum kind of metal material.
Well, that's something that's easy to recycle because paper.
Not just recycle, but it's not going to turn into something that turns into chemical water that then becomes cancerous in your body. So there is aluminum type of aluminum that they have that they're trying to tell people to go to. So when you drink water from this plastic bottle that I do right now, I'm supposed to never leave it in the car. And if I do leave it in the car, I need to dump all the water out. And then because of the heat, I'm supposed to keep washing it every day so that those chemicals are not in there. So that itself is what. But you can drink out of plastic as long as you don't let the water sit there in heat.
Yeah. Well, they have a lot of plastic now too that they put a certain chemical in that won't release that. It's no PFEs or PCFs or whatever they call it. And they advertise a lot of times you buy a plastic item and you look and it'll say no PCFs. That was the chemical that would come out of the plastic itself, I guess. So they're making it more recyclable. But plastic is okay to recycle, but a lot of people need to reuse this. And I'll give you a little, I may have said this before, but there was a guy that we were talking to. I used to work for my stepdad, he's a garbage man, and we used to meet down division here at this restaurant. And the guy come in one day and we were sitting there at breakfast having coffee, and he says, there's a lot of landfills, but I bet you one day it's going to get so bad where these materials aren't going to be around anymore. They're going to start mining those landfills. And that's where they're going to get their steel and their paper and their whatever. And I said, that's a thought, because a lot of that stuff won't rot. It rust if it doesn't deteriorate as quickly as you think it would. But that would kind of make sense. So if you could find any metal or anything that could be recycled, which would be plastic, which does not rot, it takes thousands of years to rot. Why not take that plastic, dig it up, and recycle it?
Yeah,
that's a thought. I mean, it wasn't really a prediction. He just thought it would make sense that maybe they might have to do that someday. Yeah. I mean, that's where you're gonna get your source of your materials is something that's been thrown away.
Yeah. And
they used to throw everything away. I mean, you name it: paper, steel, chains. I mean, metal, chunks of metal are sitting in those landfills. Now you can't just dump anything. You have to have a certain way, or you have to pay to have it dumped. It used to be you take your money in there, you take your stuff in there, you dump it, and that was it. But now you have to pay for it because it's a certain thing, and if it's got chemicals or a mattress, they have to do it. So now it costs them to dispose of it or take care of it properly, and that's why you're paying for it now, unfortunately. It never used to be that way. So when it comes to recycling stuff and like reusing stuff, if it's practical, I would probably do it.
Yeah, I think someday.
But, you know,
I think
it's gonna
someday
be,
we'll.
yeah,
I think someday we'll get into that point where we'll.
Yeah, I mean
go
that would
back to
make sense.
glass
I
and
mean,
all
he
that.
didn't predict it, but now you think about it, that would make a point. I mean, there's other stuff that get. They've said they've done, like, sometimes they went to a landfill that was capped in 1950. Okay, and they drill down and take these sample bores and whatever. And one day they came up, and I guess they went through a package of hot dogs. Apparently, I don't know how that happened, but apparently it was thrown away. And from what they found, it was the meat was still edible. But I thought that can't be, not on a hot dog, not from 1950.
Oh my gosh.
It could have been a rumor, but you see, that's when I came up with that idea about mining the landfills. That would make sense. It would just be like strip mining, basically. You're going to be digging from the top down.
Yeah, I think.
But yeah,
I think you're right.
I don't know. It could be.
Eventually, we'll start.
You know, if
using-
we get so much garbage, where are we going to keep it?
Wow.
We're going to run out of room eventually. We're going to start shooting into space.
Wow.
There's enough junk up in space now too. All those satellites and it's a mess up there. I mean, that's why they're really the space station is. It would be very serious. There's so much debris flying around.
Mm-hmm.
This stuff is traveling at like 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
If you hit something at 1,000,000 miles, you're going to disintegrate. You're not going to make it. Okay, it's going to take that space station, break it in two.
Breaking into.
So it's much more dangerous nowadays than it used to be earlier, back in the day before they started all these debris, space debris.
Yeah,
So
it's
you're going to
interesting.
run out of nuclear energy. That's a farce because it's like it's a great clean energy, but it can be dangerous too. Look at Chernobyl. That's a really good example of something gone wrong.
Radiation.
And it's still radiation there, and it always will be. It's always going to be radioactive no matter what.
No,
They had to cap the thing. You can't just get rid of like that.
I tell you what.
It takes thousands of years for it to, and I think it's a good energy, but it's what are we gonna do when we run out of room to put that radioactive stuff?
I tell you what. On the last note, you're right about the radiation and all this. But on the last note, talking about what's going to happen to the humankind, I'm going to leave this episode by this question or this statement. There are scientists, you don't have to believe this or not, that think Mars was once occupied by a certain human species or a certain species like us, and they think that they found evidence, not just the water, not just the atmosphere and of the ground of Mars, but they feel like that planet was once occupied like the Earth, but it had a nuclear warfare, some sort of a epidemic of an asteroid or nuclear or something nuclear.
Right.
Kind of what we're concerned about in the future, that will fight against each other. So they think that some humanoid or human or species like us went to the extreme of completely wiping each other out, and for some odd reason they think that the ones that survived figured out how to take a spaceship and landed it on planet Earth and started a whole new civilization.
Okay.
So I'm leaving on that note. It's kind of funny because it reminds me of the Superman story. Like, did you get this from Superman, or did you just figure this out because you're like, wow, this sells some story?
I don't know. You see those space movies and stuff like Lost in Space. There's all these lost civilizations that were there, and usually it ends bad because if you have seen the newest Lost in Space, the robot or their robot is different, but he's from a whole species of people that used to exist that made these robots so they could survive. Now all the humanoids are gone, but the robots started making themselves. So now they're their own entity. I guess that word is weird. But yeah, that's a perfect example of that. I mean, how generations and centuries of it's
So we'll leave it at that because it's like an hour and 45 minutes.
Oh, man.
And it doesn't feel like that, does it?
Well, now it does,
Yeah, now it does.
But
it did.
yeah.
So I would like to thank everyone out there that's listening to my podcast. I'd like to thank RSS.com. I'd like to thank Spotify, Pandora, and the iPhone or podcast, Apple Podcasts. I just can't speak now. I'd like to thank Castbox and every other platform out there. If you are listening to my podcast, I'd like to thank you, and people from
Yes, thank
Russia and Germany.
Yeah, all over
There's
the world. Isn't it great?
There's a new city in Germany that's listening to me. So
Oh,
this
neat.
is crazy.
Okay.
Belgium, they seem to love me more than anyone else does in America, I think. But there's a lot of people that's a non-NA, I can't get a location in them, but it's somewhere in America that
Okay.
they got a lot. Boardman, Michigan, but
Oh.
I think that's probably maybe a couple miles away from Marquette.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you. Everyone's listening to my podcast. I may have this episode on YouTube, so look for it. It's going to be called the Crazy Dre Podcast Show. I still have my Detroit Tiger logo connected to it. I should probably change that logo to my Crazy Dre Podcast Show logo, but it's kind of, I'm a Detroit.
Oh yeah.
I'm a Detroit fan, so maybe I won't do that. But thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ron, for showing up.
Thank you, Dre.
It was a lot of fun. We haven't done it for like
great.
at least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, peace and love, and enjoy the week. Happy Labor Day. So some of you are gonna have an extra day off, like the post office and some of you guys. So, and the banks should be open tomorrow because you're not special. But peace, love, and
see ya.
And I'm out of here. Peace.
Hour 45. Wow.
You know that
boy.
I didn't say anything, but shoot, I need to turn this off.
So the album's done too.